please tell them to take warning and evacuate immediately. You still have time to do the preparations, but you don't have much more time. So this is going to be an extremely dangerous storm. I don't hype, I don't put fear in people, but this is a moment where we need people who live there to know just how dangerous this is going to be. It is a massive storm. If we look here, this is the latest update as of 1 o'clock in the afternoon from the National Hurricane Center. Category 4 storm. Hurricane hunters found 140 mile per hour winds. It's a very dangerous Category 4 storm. Wind speeds 140 miles per hour, gusting up to 155 miles per hour. And it's still moving to the northwest. We're going to see this continue for a little while longer before it shifts to the northwest, and then eventually to the north as we go into the evening hours tonight, which will take it up close to the Louisiana-Texas border. The pressure has been dropping rapidly today. It's about 200 miles southeast of Lake Charles, Louisiana, and within just 220 miles of Galveston as well. So this is a storm we're going to continue to watch very carefully over the next several hours. I'm sorry if my audio is a bit quiet at this point. I'm going to do my best to talk down toward the mic to make sure that you are getting the audio as best as I can. If we look here, this is the satellite loop. You can see when you're looking at what I want you to do is I want you to look at the eye. It's a very well-informed eye at this point, and you can see some of the yellow around that eye. That's explosive thunderstorms that are continuing to tell us the storm is intensifying. Also, if you look along the coast, already dealing with the storm, the outer bands of Laura are already impacting spots along the Louisiana and even Texas coastline right now. You can see there is a severe thunderstorm warning. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. We're going to take this off. We're going to zoom in. You can see this yellow box right here. I'm going to turn off the satellite for a second while we do this. So if you look here, you can see that there is a severe thunderstorm warning for this outer band. What happens is it's spinning around the storm, which is a counterclockwise rotation. So it's going to push that thunderstorm to the north and to the west. So it's going to move over the state line into southeastern Texas, and strong winds. It could be a quick spin-up tornado as well as heavy rainfall with these storms. And this is going to be the case really through the rest of the afternoon and into the evening hours along the coastline, and even Houston dealing with rainfall, some breezy conditions, and Galveston, you're seeing some heavy rainfall because of these outer bands as well. I mean, you went to bed last night and the storm was beginning to intensify. We woke up this morning and it was a Category 3 storm, Category 4 now. So it really just blew up overnight. And we talk about this constantly, that the Gulf of Mexico is a bathtub for these storms. It's warm water that fuels these thunderstorms or these hurricanes, and they feed off of it. So that's why you see such rapid intensification. I mean, we have above normal temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico. That's not helping at all. So this storm is going to continue to intensify as it moves closer to land. So let me go back. I should have put a pause point in here, and I didn't, but the beauty of this, we can take our time and go back. So we're going to watch the storm continue. After about 7 o'clock, it's going to get closer to land. It may start to drop off in intensity a little bit with the land interaction, but it's still going to be a Category 4 storm at landfall. Landfall has not changed. It's going to make landfall in southwestern Louisiana, southeastern Texas, right there along the state line. And then it's going to start to curve up to the north and east fairly quickly, and it's really going to ride the state line all the way up until it gets into Arkansas and then eventually into the Ohio River Valley. If you watch here, it moves very quickly up to the north. And I mean, this is going to cause problems not only for the coast, but all the way up through East Texas, western Louisiana, into Texarkana, and then all the way up into the Ohio River Valley. By the weekend, the Carolinas are going to be dealing with some of this heavy rainfall. So a beast of a storm, that's for sure. We have tropical warnings, so hurricane watches and warnings, tropical storm watches and warnings that stretch along the coast all the way up into East Texas and western Louisiana. What I'm showing you here is going to be the hurricane watches and warnings. So we've got a hurricane warning in the magenta color. That's going to stretch from Galveston Bay, just to the south of Galveston Bay, all the way over to Intercoastal City, Louisiana. It goes all the way up to Nacogdoches. And I mean, that's a hurricane warning. That's not the tropical storm warning. That's the hurricane warning. Hurricane watch all the way over from Intercoastal City, Louisiana, all the way over to Morgan City. That's where you're going to see that hurricane watch extended. Our main points, the main points that you want to talk about here as we move forward is going to be storm surge 10 to 15 feet. This is bad, but we also could have locations in that north and east quadrant of the storm that could see up to 20-foot storm surge. So we'll talk about where that's at and what location that is later on here. But I want to show you kind of current wind gusts that we're seeing with the storm, because what happens, storm surge happens because the wind blows already the motion of a wave that comes on shore. The wind blows that water even faster against land, and that's where you get some of those waves. So right now we've got wind gusts from buoys just off the shore of Louisiana, near Intercoastal City, Louisiana, at 55 miles per hour. We've got 25-mile-per-hour wind gusts just to the south of Port Arthur. Galveston Bay, just to the south of you, 25-mile-per-hour wind gusts at this point. It's still 12 hours from landfall. If we look at wave heights, these are from some buoys out in Gulf of Mexico, 19.7 feet. Right underneath the storm there. So these waves, if you look from southeastern Louisiana, 16.4 already, and the storm hasn't even arrived yet. Galveston Bay, just on the shoreline there of Port Aransas, at 7.9. So if you look at this storm surge forecast, this is looking at all parts of the storm. I mean, this storm is huge. It is spans over 400 miles from one side to the other. It is going to make an impact along the upper coast of Texas all the way. Most of the Louisiana coastline will be impacted by this storm because of the location of where they are to the storm. So if you're on the right side of the storm, you're going to get most of that storm surge. So if you look in the magenta, 10 to 20 feet. So that's from, I believe it's Searam State Park. That's just south of, by 30 miles, Port Arthur, then all the way into Louisiana toward Intercoastal City, Louisiana. That's in that 10 to 20 foot storm surge category. This storm surge isn't just going to impact what's right on the coast. This could move inland and bring this very dangerous and devastating storm surge 30 miles in, so toward Port Arthur. So if you need to make sure that even if you live off of the coast, that you get out of there before the storm gets there. Again, not trying to scare anybody, just want to make sure you're informed. So a lot of people are asking, what is storm surge? What does that even mean? Well, we've talked about it the last few days, but here's a good way to explain it to you. So we have high tide and low tide. High tide, those waves come in a little bit farther. So on normal high tide, you get these waves pushing onto the sand. Now, when you have a hurricane involved, you not only have the normal increase in tide, but also you have the storm and the motion of the storm, the winds of the storm that are pushing that water even farther and even higher. So just think about when we're talking about, 10 feet. And you're standing out there and you're on the shore. Think about how high that is to have a 10-foot storm surge. And then think 20-foot storm surge, and you're just standing out there on the sand. That is what's going to happen as we watch the water move in some of these really these spots along the Louisiana coastline and just a smidge of the upper Texas coastline. This could cause devastation to real estate. This could cause, if you choose to stay or your family chooses to stay in some of these locations, nobody will be able to go out and help them at that point. So please, I'm not telling you to scare you, just I want you to have all of the information and know this storm is nothing to mess around with. It could be one we talk about for a really long time. Here's a look at the forecast track. Again, I want to show you this because hurricanes move in a counterclockwise rotation, and this graphic kind of shows that icon there spinning in that. The reason that the northeast quadrant of the storm has the worst storm surge is because the motion of the storm itself, the circulation around the storm goes counterclockwise, so it's pushing against the land on that side. And then you factor in those winds hitting the land that's stationary. And that's where you just get it to all pile up, and essentially like the parts of land that would normally not have water in them become part of the ocean. And it is extremely dangerous and the most deadly part of a hurricane. All right, let's look at our timecast. Timecast here as we move forward through the day. I'm going to stop it at 6 o'clock. Still several miles off the coast at 6 o'clock. Still, conditions will rapidly deteriorate from now until then for spots from Galveston Bay all the way over the entire coast of Louisiana. Then here is we watch it make landfall just around, I would say anywhere between 1 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the morning, just right over Port Arthur, and then it moves up the state line. I went ahead and moved it up fairly quickly because I want to spend some time for folks that are watching who live in North Texas. Here in North Texas, you can see that by looking at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the storm's hauling, which is good. We like that because you want it in and out fairly quickly. But it's going to bring tropical storm force winds to spots in East Texas. Now, most of North Texas is really not going to be impacted by, we may have some breezy conditions, some gusty winds here and there, but the higher winds are going to be the farther east you go, closer to spots like Longview, Linden, Texarkana, Center, closer to the Louisiana and Texas state line. Thursday in the afternoon, wrap around moisture from the storm. The outer bands could bring in some showers and thunderstorms to as far west as I-35. You can see it there in one of our models here, looking at Dallas up toward the Red River, seeing embedded showers and thunderstorms. If these storms do move through, they'll have quite a bit of lightning with them. There'll be quite a bit of rainfall that falls in a short period of time, and we'll be keeping an eye on that fairly closely as we go through the day tomorrow. If you're west of I-35, you may see a shower here and there, but nothing substantial to what we need for the drought, unfortunately. Here's 6 o'clock in the evening on Thursday. We still see some showers and thunderstorms that are moving south of I-20 near Mejia, Palestine. By the time we go to bed Thursday night, most of this moisture will have moved off to the north and east. Now, we'll still have a lot of moisture in the air here left over the weekend, so we'll still keep a small chance of a pop-up shower or thunderstorm in the afternoon during peak heating, but most of that is going to have moved out Friday. So if you look here, the storm is going to move quickly, so the impacts and the strong winds will go far inland. So more than 110 miles per hour, more than that. I just kept it like that, but for spots right along the coast, and then up to 50 to 100 miles inland. Then 74 miles per hour or more in the darker orange, and then as you get closer to southeast, in the northern portions of Texas, far east, 60 to 70 down by Nacogdoches, and also up near 40 to 60 for Texarkana, from Paris, Clarksville to Texarkana. So the impacts are going to be widespread with this storm. Hurricane force winds, as it makes landfall, will reach out 75 miles from the center in either direction. So if you think it makes landfall on, let's go back to the radar, and let's zoom in. Let's zoom into where the potential landfall is. Okay, there's now a new tornado warning in this southwestern Louisiana. You can see that there. And that's not out of the question. We may see way more of those as the storm gets closer with these outer bands. Okay, so we're right here. Okay? If the storm makes landfall here, you can see my cursor. If we go out 75 miles this direction, and then 75 miles this direction. The eastern portion of the Houston metro could be dealing with hurricane force winds as this storm makes landfall. If the storm makes landfall a little bit farther to the east, it will be more like tropical storm force winds. But either way, it's going to get extremely windy, even if you're not directly impacted, Houston, by the eye of the storm. The storm is massive. You're still going to be dealing with some hurricane force winds. Now, from the center of the storm, out 175 miles, it goes off screen, will be tropical storm force winds. So many power outages because of trees that'll fall, power lines that will fall. And yeah, you're going to deal with some rainfall here in Houston, but the wind impact is going to be quite a bit because of just the mass of this storm. So let's go back down here to rainfall. I do want to look at that And I'll keep it wide at first so you can see it's a sharp cutoff on the western side of the storm. So if you look, 6 to 10 plus inches of rainfall for the spots in the orange, the dark orange. That's going to be mainly for extreme southeastern Texas and for most of the western part of the state of Louisiana. If you look at Houston, Houston's going to be, I mean, the whole metro, if you're on the eastern side, you may run into 2 to 3 inches of rain. If you're on the western side, you could have a half inch to an inch, depending on where exactly the storm makes landfall. Now, what about North Texas? For those of you wondering, here's a zoom in and look at this. A half inch to an inch of rainfall possible through the weekend with the chances of rain that we're going to have from the tropical moisture in place as Laura moves to the north. 1/10 of an inch to a half of an inch farther south and west, unfortunately for you. The farther east you drive, that's where you're going to see some of that heavier rain. 2 to 4 inches from Sulphur Springs, Paris, down to Tyler, Jacksonville. But then if you get even just, I would say 30 miles to the east, it goes up to 4 inches. It could be up to 6 inches the closer you get to the state line. So East Texas will get the brunt of Laura as it makes its way to the north. So here's a breakdown for you. Winds 40 to 60 miles per hour for those locations I was just talking about, with a 2 to 6 inches of rainfall possible. You're going to be closest to Laura as she makes her way up the Louisiana state line. And then winds 15 to 30 miles per hour for locations like Fort Worth, Decatur. Decatur, you're right on the edge though. Corsicana, Hillsborough, all the way up to Sherman. Collin County, you're going to be included in this. It's going to be breezy, 15 to 30 mile per hour winds. So what you do with this, if you have any outdoor patio furniture or umbrellas that are up, by the time we get into tonight before you go to bed, I would just go ahead and put those away. Put anything that's loose outside that can blow around, go ahead and put those in, because they could just blow around in the backyard. You just want to make sure they're not flying around. So that's what you could expect from the Metroplex to the east. And then as we go west of I-35, again, the impacts will be minimal. 5 to 15 mile per hour winds and less than a half inch of rainfall out of this setup as we move forward from today, the rest of the day today through tomorrow. Here's a look at satellite and radar right now, where again, we're talking about this tropical moisture being able to pop up a few showers and thunderstorms. If we look here, northeast Texas is where we're seeing most of the rainfall. So I'm going to zoom in here so you can see it. We're going to take satellite off. Let's do it. Here we go. So we've got quite a bit of lightning up here. Quite a bit of lightning from Paris along 82 all the way to Sherman. If we slide south into Collin County right now, you can see a few spots that have right to the south of 380 toward Wiley, a good heavy downpour there. Up to the north of Rockwall, Frisco, just right along the Dallas North Tollway here, there's a small shower as well. If we slide down to Dallas County, you can see that there's a few, one just to the south here near Lancaster, right along 35 East. Okay, let's get in a little bit closer here. Glen Heights, seeing a heavy downpour there. And this is going to be the case now moving forward, where we're going to see this moisture in place. We're going to see these pop-up showers and thunderstorms. If they train over some of the same spots, which is possible in northeast Texas right now with these showers and thunderstorms, if they train over the same spots, we could be looking at some flooding issues there. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But this is going to be happening as we move forward. So here's a wide look again at Hurricane Laura. We have a Category 4 storm, potential to still intensify before it makes landfall several hours from now. It is a beast of a storm. We need to make sure we're watching this carefully. We will, of course, bring you updates as we move forward through the rest of the day today and, of course, tonight ahead of landfall. And we just needed to make sure we take a storm like this very seriously and protect our family, our property here as we move forward into the coming hours. So stay with WFAA. We'll, of course, have more updates coming up at 4 o'clock. And, yeah, I'm going to get back to watching the updates here on Hurricane Laura. Thanks for joining me.